Welcome to the InforMaven AI Update, a podcast for higher education administrators to discuss the practical use of AI and intelligent agents. I'm JD Mosley-Matchett, the founder and CEO of InforMaven, a company that helps you work smarter by harnessing the power of intelligent agents. And this month, our guest is Dr. Rollinda Thomas, Assistant Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at Fayetteville State University. Welcome to the final episode of AI Update, brought to you by InforMaven. I'm JD Mosley-Matchett, the founder and CEO of InforMaven, and this month's guest is Dr. Rollinda Thomas, Assistant Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at Fayetteville State University. She's also the first higher education administrator who learned AI automation skills using the InforMaven Method. Welcome to the podcast, Rollinda.
Thank you so much, JD. Thank you for having me.
Now, academic affairs is a pretty broad area in higher education. So if somebody asked you what you do, how would you describe your role?
I often tell people that I help people to measure their performance so they can improve their performance.
Ooh.
And so, in short, we use assessment, we use data analysis to help unlock your students' best performance.
Do you remember back in 2024, we were in Asheville, North Carolina, when I showed you one of my AI automations? Do you remember your initial reaction?
Yes, I do. I was so excited. There were people at our table, and we were all gushing over the project and just how brilliant and how useful it was. And we were just immediately thinking of all these cool use cases for it. And so I thought, well, it would be so cool to be able to learn how to do something like that.
So at that time, back in 2024, what were your general thoughts about AI?
I knew that you hear about AI everywhere and just how important it is and how it was not just on the horizon, that it was already here, that it was something that was going to be transformative in business, in higher education, in just about every aspect of our lives. And so it's this huge possible opportunity, but a very daunting task. And so, given that you know that it's put together with all of these complicated algorithms by mathematicians and computer scientists, I thought, it would be so awesome, so helpful to be able to learn this. But then there was the concern that, well, there'd be such a high learning curve. How would I ever be able to do this?
And you have a PhD.
But not in computer science.
This is true. This is true. When I invited you to learn how to develop AI-based applications using the InforMaven method, what were your first thoughts and what was that learning experience like for you?
I have to say, and this is why it was so wonderful to get to work with you specifically. The InforMaven method that you shared was just so user friendly. It was so just a seamless experience. You personally brought your personality to it, that you were very patient. You were willing to explain things, which was very helpful for me. But another thing that also was really helpful was being able to watch you in real time tackle problem solving. That you were able to go into the system, you were able to query the system for anything that was needed, and you were able to problem solve right on the fly. And so it really modeled what that would look like in creating an AI project. And so I really appreciated that you provided wonderful, detailed, and illustrated instructions for me to follow, so that I could, follow along with that or even work through it on my own time at my own pace. And so it was just really, the InforMaven method was a great method for me to use as a visual learner. And so I really appreciated it.
What kinds of AI-based applications have you created since then?
The great thing about having this experience is that then you can use that to apply to create your own projects. And so that's something that I was able to do. And in my role, as you know, I work a lot with policy. And so I deal with university policy, system level policies, and also accreditation policies, accreditation standards. So with that, I used AI to create a kind of a research buddy, if you will, when it comes to policy. And so I wanted to make sure one of the two things that we often have to consider if we're dealing with AI or any online product is that number one commentator once mentioned that the internet has everything except quality control. And so, one huge question is if I'm going to deal with policy questions or anything that I want to know, how can I be sure that I'm getting reliable information? The second consideration is privacy concerns. If I use this platform, is my data going to be misused? And so the way that you shared that we can address this is that number one, in the AI project, you can determine what the knowledge sources are going to be, and you can limit that so that it can only use, based on the instructions, it can only use these specific published, publicly available knowledge sources that are reliable. And so when I generate my projects, I use specific documents. They may be specific policy manuals, for instance, policies and procedures, for instance, or legal documents. And so I will use that. I will use as sources, the AI may have the official websites for certain institutions or governing bodies, for instance. And so I use that as a knowledge source. And that helps to make sure that I have far more reliable information, that it can't just go anywhere and get some misleading information from some questionable influencer. Then, when dealing with the privacy issue, fortunately, in talking with you and in learning from other systems, I found that, of course, if you use a paid version, then you're able to, and with ChatGPT as an example, you use the paid version to create these AI projects. But there's others that you might use with Microsoft Copilot or Nebula One or some other platforms. And so oftentimes if you're dealing with a business account, or if it's Microsoft Copilot, an enterprise account, or different paid versions, give you the option to be able to set the security settings so that the AI company is not allowed to use your data to train its models.
What advice would you offer an administrator in higher education who's worried about AI?
Great question, and I certainly would not minimize those concerns because I shared those concerns. I want to make sure that we're using it certainly efficiently and effectively, but also safely. We want to make sure that the first thing, as I mentioned before, is making sure that you're using reputable sources. The second thing, of course, is security, and that's massive. And so one of the huge caveats that I would share with people is to, even if you're using, the highest level security settings, I absolutely avoid using personally identifiable information, the PII. I would avoid using that in any of the projects. It's very useful. I have to say, it is an immensely powerful tool, and you can use it to really, if you're an administrator or really almost in any role, you can use it to supercharge your efficiency. It can research things far faster than you can, or any human. And so it's like having a team of research assistants that can immediately search, volumes of policy for you, and it can give you very useful information. What I would also say to people, and I actually often do share this with people who use projects with AI, and there are some where I have designed AI projects specifically for friends or colleagues, and I always share with them that you want to make sure that if you're using this for analysis, that AI can hallucinate. And so that's one, if there's one comforting thing in all of this, is that AI is not yet ready to replace us, because it does not have human judgment, and it's not actually thinking when it even though it appears to do so. These are large language models that are giving you the answer that has the greatest statistical probability based on its analysis of a broad range of answers that have been given in the past to similar questions. And so it can hallucinate, it can make mistakes, and you'll have to have enough policy knowledge or background in that area to be able to recognize when something is wrong. And if that happens, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to work through it. You simply need to question it well, that, okay, how can you explain that to me again, but share the documentation? What is your source document that justifies that answer? And eventually it can come around to a better, higher quality answer for you. And so I would say that, yes, so you just need to use your judgment, double check anything that you are using, go to the source material. And also, but so it can save you a lot of time, but it doesn't replace you. And you don't want to stand on its statements alone. What is the document? What is the source? And avoid using personally identifiable information.
Thank you, Rollinda. I'm truly honored to have you as my final guest on this podcast. You've explained how AI can be practical, approachable, and genuinely useful for higher education administrators.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
As we bring this podcast series to a close, I'm so grateful for all of our guests and audience members. You've helped make this a thoughtful and inspirational space. And although this chapter is ending, I'm confident that administrators will continue to use AI in new and meaningful ways to strengthen higher education, empower students, and elevate our institutions. Thank you for being part of the InforMaven community. This recording is a production of InforMaven LLC, all rights reserved.